Greetings and salutations all, I.S. Anderson here once again with another top 10 list from the Song of Ice and Fire series. Song of Ice and Fire features a lot of characters that are very clever, such as Tyrion, Tywin Lannister, Bran, Davos, a lot of other characters, and they do some pretty interesting things. However, there are some characters that are not so bright. There are some characters whose stupidity has either gotten themselves killed or other people killed, which can be comical in a way. So I thought today we'd take a look at those characters that are not quite so bright. The ones that, through their own stupidity, have either gotten themselves killed or other people killed, and or both. So I present to you the top 10 biggest buffoons in the Song of Ice and Fire series. I chose Theon mainly because of what he did before he took over Winterfell. I mean, he was raised by the Starks, and he gets this brilliant idea that he'll go back to the Iron Islands and they'll just accept him with open arms and they'll follow his suggestions, not remembering what kind of people they are, and thinking that they would just, flock to Robb's banner. Of course, it doesn't go as planned. And so what does he do? He swears his fealty to the Greyjoys and decides to try and take over Winterfell to impress his father. Yeah, not a good idea. I guess he didn't really think, Winterfell's pretty far away, plus I'm going to be portraying the people that cared about me, and they're not going to like that too much. Plus, the North isn't exactly known for just letting people take them over, and the Starks have defeated the Greyjoys once before. He didn't take any of this into account. Plus, his father kind of told him, just attack this little fishing village so you can prove your worth, and Theon was like, no, I'm going right for the heart right now. Yeah, not very brilliant. And yeah, later on he does get punished for it. He is put in a bad situation. But still, he's pretty much there because of his own stupidity. I mean, it doesn't justify what Ramsay does to him. But Theon definitely not a bright bulb. But I put him at number 10 because he does learn. Too little, too late. But still, he does learn. Jon Connington, he seems pretty smart for the most part. He did get young Aegon out of King's Landing before he could get killed, and he did sort of orchestrate that. Though you got to remember, that was Varys' plan, not his. But still, he did manage to execute it pretty well. And he does have a fairly good idea of how to get Aegon back and all that stuff. The reason he's on this list is not because of anything he's done during the books. It's because of his actions during Robert's Rebellion. During Robert's Rebellion, Jon Connington was ordered by the Mad King to go and find Baratheon, and hunt him down. And he actually managed to corner him in this one little town. I don't remember the name of it, but, he had Robert cornered in this, little town and, his men. And he had his men searching through the whole town, but he couldn't find him. And where was Robert, you might ask? In the whorehouse. Now, yes, I understand Robert is a man whore. That's what he does. And he also had a reputation of doing that, as far as I know. So which begs the question is, why would Jon Connington not look in the whorehouse? Really, that's pretty much the first place he should have looked. And Robert should have known that Jon was going to look for him there, but no, he went in there anyway. Oh yeah, and by the way, about Robert, don't worry, we will get to him later. Apparently, when Robert was there hiding, he had sex with every woman in that whorehouse, so he was there for an awfully long time. Jon had his men searching throughout the whole city, had all his soldiers go from house to house, invading everybody's privacy, but not once decided to go into the whorehouse. I wonder what the conversation between him and his lieutenants was like that time. Sir, this is Robert Baratheon we're looking for. Shouldn't we look in the whorehouse? No, Chumley, that's exactly what he'll be suspecting, so he'll never hide there. What? Okay, now I will admit Lysa, she's not quite right in the head. She's a little bit touched, shall we say. And yes, I'm sure Peter Baelish is responsible for a lot of that madness she has. She was basically decided to align herself with somebody who was a lot more clever than her. But the thing you gotta realize is, clever people don't fall for people that hard. Not to the point where you let them convince you to kill your own husband. Quite frankly, I don't see Sansa falling for his lies like Lysa did. Still, Lysa was manipulated by a master, so that's why she's still pretty low on this list. Now, I know a lot of people really like this guy. I realize he's kind of a hero in a lot of people's eyes. But you gotta admit, he made some pretty bad choices. I mean, he basically let his mother get away with completely disobeying him, which was understandable because, I mean, she's still his mother. But then he alienates the Karstarks because he executes their leader. Granted, their leader, did betray him also. But all of his advisors told him, look, don't kill him, just keep him prisoner so that the Karstarks will still, like, nope, gotta kill him. Nope, he did something bad. I gotta kill him. Really, you couldn't just lash him and imprison him? That's what I think you should do, too. That's what everybody told him to do, but nope. And then he decides, well, since I lost these guys, I need more allies. I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, he did. But let me go to the one guy first that I just really pissed off more than anybody, and let's get him to join, lend forces to my army. Now, keep in mind, Walder Frey didn't exactly have the best reputation for being a reliable guy in the first place. And Robb thinks he's going to be a good ally after he betrays him? Yeah, I mean, Robb really should have known that no amount of ass-kissing was going to make that end well. I mean, he couldn't have possibly expected the Red Wedding to happen. I mean, that's kind of like the biggest no-no in Westeros, killing somebody who's a guest in your house after you've had bread and salt with them. So I can understand why you didn't see that coming. And actually, Robb is actually dumber in the show, because in the show he brought his wife with him and showed her off to the whole Frey family. Whereas in the book, he was clever enough to, ship her away and store her somewhere else, with the Blackfish. But in the show, no, he was even dumber. He showed her off, and it got him and his whole army killed. But you can't really blame Robb, because he was pretty much following the example of this guy. And again, Ned Stark, good guy, noble, the kind of guy that you'd want to stand up for, and, really does deserve the loyalty of his men. But really, just what the hell was he thinking? Now, I understand he was trying to avoid another Targaryen incident with the kids, dead under the red cloaks, and he didn't want that to happen to Cersei and her children, and that's why he warned her. But still, he knew what kind of a person Cersei was. He knew she wasn't trustworthy. Then after Robert gets killed by the mysterious boar, again, we'll go back to Robert. And then after Robert dies, I mean, he is at least clever enough to know he can't just go up to Cersei and say, sorry, everybody, Joffrey's a bastard, and he's actually Jaime's kid, so actually Stannis is the king, so he writes one letter to Stannis, only telling him, like it's a big secret. No, the whole kingdom needs to know, Ned. And so then Renly comes to him and says, look, I can have, a whole army here. We can take over Cersei real quick like this. We can save the throne from her. And Ned goes, no, I don't want to do that. And I understand Ned's logic. Stannis was the rightful king since, Joffrey and all of them were bastards. But still, Ned should have been thinking, okay, look, let's just bring the big force up now, take it from Cersei, and then we can work out who is, the legal king here. But nope. I'll place my faith in Peter Baelish, worked so well for Lysa. It was just a joke. But still, I mean, I know, again, it's Peter Baelish, the master manipulator. You can't really blame Ned for being manipulated by Peter Baelish. But still, Ned made some really bad decisions, and then he said, okay, yeah, I'll confess to this thing that I didn't actually do, and Joffrey is the real king, and that cost him his head. For those of you who watch my videos, I'm sure you were expecting her to be on this list. You know how I love picking on her. I mean, Cersei, she comes up with the most harebrained schemes ever. I mean, just look at how she planned to kill Robert. Well, let's just get him really drunk, and that way, when he actually finds the boar will kill him. Now, if anybody else, if she planned to kill anybody else this way, even if they were an avid hunter, even hunted more than Robert, it never would have worked. No, but because it worked, she thinks she's so clever now. She actually thinks that she's a clever schemer just because this harebrained scheme got worked. I mean, a wise person would have said, I got real lucky there, didn't I? So after Joffrey's dead, she's the Queen Regent. She has real power. She assigns a bunch of people to her council who are either just ineffective or just, will betray her the first thing. I mean, she can't even have her first choices because they won't follow her. They know better than to, be on her council and advise her. Okay, and because of something a fortune teller later told her when she was young, she thinks that Marjorie is going to take over everything. And to an extent, I mean, yeah, she is, because Marjorie's the new queen. So eventually when Tommen comes of age and he's the real king, Marjorie's going to be the real queen. So Cersei will no longer be the Queen Regent. But that's kind of the natural procession of things. And I realize there's a prophecy telling you he's going to take everything over. But still, Cersei should have been worried more about running the Seven Kingdoms rather than, getting even or taking out Marjorie. But nope. But the real boneheaded move she makes is when Tommen needs a blessing from the High Septon. He actually tricks her into allowing her to have his own personal army. She gives military power to a religious organization. You don't do that! Not to mention the fact that this same army gave the Targaryens a big problem back in the old days. That's why the the High Septons weren't allowed to have their own army up until now. No, but Cersei, she does that, she thinks, well, I'm just so clever, aren't I? I got Tommen his blessing, and I just erased $1 million in debt to the crown. I'm just so clever. I knew that just was not going to end well. And for her troubles, she ends up getting stripped naked, thrown into a tower, and then has to pull a Godiva and walk through town that way. To be fair, her stupidity hasn't gotten her killed. Yet. When most people think of Viserys, they mostly think about his mistreatment of Dany and how much of a jerk he was. And while all that is true, and that is a good enough reason to hate the guy, that really wasn't his downfall. I mean, Viserys, he spent most of his life taking care of Dany and having to beg just to survive. And yet he gets the idea that people are going to respect him and treat him as a king just because of his name. And then once Dany marries Drogo, he automatically thinks that they're just going to pick up his army and just take him across Westeros. He thinks the Dothraki is just going to go across the Narrow Sea, something that they've never done before, something that they've been too afraid to do for thousands of years. Then he mistreats Dany in front of her guards, and then her guards pull him off of her, and she spares his life, but then Viserys turns around and tells Jorah, oh, kill them for me, and, I'm your king, blah, 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 blah. I mean, he's on the ground, he's just been made a bitch of, surrounded by people who don't like him, and he thinks he can just bark out orders. Seriously, are you paying attention? A funny thing that happens in the book that they don't touch on in the show is that Viserys was given this cart that was pulled by a horse, and he rode around in this, and he was thinking this is a high privilege. Yes, they're letting me sit in this cart so I don't have to ride and I don't have to walk, and ha 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 ha. Not realizing that this is a cart that they give to pregnant women or people that they want to shame. He does absolutely nothing to engender trust, respect, or even act like a nice guy in front of the Dothraki people, and he thinks that they're automatically just going to give him something just because, their count or Khal married his sister. I mean, it's one thing to feel you're entitled to something. It's another thing to actually think that you're going to get it. When Viserys finally is killed, we all get the satisfaction of him being killed because of how he treated Dany and just because he was an all-around jerk. And while I can agree with that sentiment, I don't really think that's what got him killed. I don't think anybody with half a brain would have got themselves killed like that. Okay, as I promised, Robert Baratheon. What a piece of work this guy is. I mean, a lot of people can just watch what he does and kind of laugh and, just think, yeah, Robert's funny, the way he does this thing. And yeah, he is laughable. But you gotta remember, this guy is supposed to be ruling 7 kingdoms, and he's doing nothing but drinking and whoring and hunting. That's the only thing Robert understands. Drinking, warring, and whoring. And if it isn't one of those 3 things, he's just completely clueless. And not to sound like a broken record, but again, he fell victim to the dumbest, harebrained most boneheaded scheme in the Seven Kingdoms. He was killed by a damn pig. So yeah, great fighter, great general, lousy king, stupid guy. I mean, there's just... You gotta laugh, but still, it's just dumb. What? You think you read that wrong? Confused by it? Let me show it to you again, just to put your mind at ease. Yes, that's correct. The entire Martell family is tied for number 2. Now don't get me wrong, the Martells are pretty cool. I mean, they are a lot more progressive than the rest of Westeros, and they've got some pretty interesting characters in that house. But really, the whole lot of them, they are just way in over their heads. Whenever they come up with some harebrained scheme, they always get themselves killed or somebody else killed. So let's examine them a little bit more in depth. First of all, you've got Oberyn Martell. I know. I'll fight the biggest, most dangerous fighter in all the Seven Kingdoms and get him to confess to a crime that everybody already knew he did. Splat. Then you've got Quentyn Martell, the Dragon Tamer. I know. I'll tame Daenerys' other 2 dragons, therefore she'll have to marry me, even though she's already married to somebody else. And missing. Wah! And then you've got Prince Doran. Now, Prince Doran was going to marry his daughter, Arianna, to Viserys. And he and Viserys were going to take back the Seven Kingdoms. But what he does with this Viserys is, I mean, he knows Viserys is over in the east, you know, trying to raise Dany. He knows he's the Beggar King and all that stuff. But he just figures, no, we'll just leave him over there for now. We'll leave himself to build up an army of his own. And then he'll come over here, and then, he'll team up with us, and we'll, take back the Seven Kingdoms. What could possibly go wrong? Whoops. So now he's got this harebrained scheme of sending the Sand Snakes over to infiltrate Westeros as spies. I mean, he's going to have one of them actually stay in the High Septon's church, and I don't remember what he's going to have with the other 2, but I can just tell already they're going to end in disaster. I mean, first of all, they're Dornish, and the Dornish don't exactly blend in well with the rest of Westeros. Plus, those girls have some pretty quick tempers, and the first time anybody says anything bad about Dorne or anything bad about Oberyn, they're not just going to laugh it off, they're going to act. I mean, yes, they're very tough, they're good fighters, but that doesn't make them good spies. So I don't know what role the Martells are going to have in the whole rest of the story, but I think for most of them, it's going to end pretty badly. Yes, I have talked about Brienne in a past video, and I still stand by what I say. She is completely and utterly useless. Now, I realize a lot of people are very emotionally invested in Brienne of Tarth. I mean, she's just a strong woman, and she takes on a man's role and all that stuff. But the thing is, as I said before in a video, she fucks up everything she gets. I mean, let's take a look at her accomplishments so far. So first she becomes Renly's personal bodyguard, and he ends up being killed almost immediately. So Renly gets attacked in his tent. She's right there. She sees it happening, and before Renly gets killed, what happens? Does she jump in, try to save him? I mean, does she tackle him out of the way? Does she draw her sword, try to take on her attacker? Nope. She just stands there and screams, "Ah!" Don't believe me? I'll leave a link to the video below in the description. I mean, could you imagine if the Secret Service did something like that? Hey look, that guy's gonna shoot the president. Oh no, what do we do? Okay, now it was her first offense, and I don't know how to fight a smoke baby either, so we'll just put that one aside for right now. So next she decides she's gonna serve Lady Catelyn. So Catelyn gives Brienne the assignment of taking Jaime back to King's Landing so they can ransom him for Sansa and Arya. They get captured. So while they're getting captured, Jaime has to save Brienne from getting raped by telling them some story about her father as a powerful lord who can give them all those sapphires that they can ransom her for. It costs him his hand. So eventually they let Jaime go after he loses his hand, and they let him go back to King's Landing on his own without Brienne. But he has to go back and save her from being eaten by a bear. Yes, Brienne gets thrown into a sort of gladiatorial pit with a bear, and Jaime has to save her. and he does this with only one hand. Oh, and while all this is going on, Catelyn ends up dying at the Red Wedding. That one not exactly Brienne's fault, but if she had managed to get her job done quickly, she might have gotten back to help Catelyn. I mean, maybe. I doubt it at this point, but maybe. And so now Jaime sends her out to find Sansa. And, you know, I would think this would be a little bit more of a covert operation, looking for a fugitive, but nope, she just goes around publicly, asks everybody, hey, you seen this girl? You seen this girl? You seen this girl? You seen this girl? And we can't tell you who she is, but here's exactly what she looks like. And no, she doesn't look anything like the girl who ran away from King's Landing after Joffrey mysteriously was poisoned. Never does find Sansa or Arya, although it should have been pretty obvious where Sansa was at least. But anyway, she gets into a fight with a bandit and gets completely fucked up. She then gets captured again, this time by the Brotherhood, and ends up getting her and Podrick hung. And in Jaime's chapter with Dancing Dragons, we find out that she can't even die right. Yes, so she tells, hey Jaime, come hither, I gotta show you something. And he says, well, what's that wrong with your face? Oh, this is just a bite, don't worry about it. Come on, I got something to show you. And that's the last time we see her. I don't know, if I was going to take a guess, I'd say she's some sort of slave or pawn or, you know, wife for the Brotherhood. I don't know, but man, I just hope she doesn't do all that much more damage before she's actually dead. And that is my top 10 list of the biggest buffoons in the Song of Ice and Fire series. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll leave all my pertinent contact information down below in the abyss. And please comment, rate, subscribe. You know the drill. And until next time, this is I.S. Anderson telling everybody, make your lives grand and have a good day. Thank you very much.